Thank you for staying with us. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed the deaths of 22 soldiers and over 17 insurgents during an ongoing military operation in the Timbuktu Triangle, a notorious terrorist gang in Borno State. According to the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, the operation began on January the 16th, 2025, and has focused on dismantling terrorist enclaves in the region. He further says that during the operations, the terrorists employed various lethal tactics, including the use of improvised explosive devices, suicide bombers, and drones. He also acknowledged the loss of 22 soldiers and appealed for restraint from the media in publishing the names of the fallen troops to allow formal notification of their families. But joining us in the studio is security consultant Darlington Umoru. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
My pleasure being here once again.
Although it's good to have you join us, but sadly we lost these 22 soldiers. Media so rest in peace. In the cause or in the line of duty, they lost their lives. And I hope that God will grant the families the fortitude to bear this loss. Now, let's talk about what has happened. The military has been committed over the years to addressing this matter of insurgents and their activities in the country. This is not the first time we are hearing about getting into the enclave, fighting in Timbuktu. We've seen several areas, Gaydam, all of it, Borno in the northeast, basically. And we often hear successes being, recovered or achieved in the course of the fight. Here we are again at this same spot. And then we recorded some success, but lost some personnel in the course of this whole matter. Talk to us from your perspective, what you make of it and what really is going on.
Veronica, first off, permit me to use this medium to send my condolences to the Nigerian government, the military, and the families of those who have lost their husbands. Nigeria has lost some great men, a huge investment. I thought at this time, since Sunday or Saturday, the national flag should have been flown
lower,
at
half-mast.
Yes, half-mast. But incidentally, we have not done that. To lose 22 soldiers in one battle, it's a big deal. Yes. It's a big deal. As it is, the Northeast, for some time before now, was a bit quiet. That was the period we had the fight, the battle for who takes over Sambisa Forest between ISWAP and Boko Haram. Of course, ISWAP more dangerous when compared with the strength of Boko Haram. They were able to overpower Boko Haram, and that gave the Nigerian military the opportunity to carry out some intense training on how to, maneuver the Sambisa Forest. It gave the Nigerian governments the opportunity to introduce plenty of technology in terms of intel. But the collapse of the national grid at different times may have also not been very helpful to the intel gathering with the use of some surveillance gadgets, that helped the Nigerian military so much to monitor the movement of these criminals. Be that as it may, I feel sad, when I'm here talking about the death of gallant soldiers due to reasons I'm not sure even the military will be able to explain. 22 soldiers at a go is unheard. In other climes, by now, it would have been a big deal. Now, what I feel, like you ask, the terrorists, particularly ISWAP, that has link with ISIS and all of that, they are advancing in this war. So for the period they were quiet, apparently, perhaps they were re-strategizing. January has not been palatable to Nigerians, particularly the Northeasterners. We've had, it started from December. We've had series of killings, series of bombings. The use of IEDs has become prevalent again. It's becoming very much pronounced. But the fear now is that they have advanced into using UAVs. They have, the terrorists now I'm talking about, they have advanced into using UAVs to do surveillance. They have also advanced into using PBIEVs and then the VBIEDs.
You need to break down all of this because for our viewers who do not understand.
Okay, sorry. I was carried away. I know. I thought I was talking to just the two of you alone who are knowledgeable in this aspect. Now, the IEDs, the PBIEDs are the ones we are used to, commonly referred to as a suicide bombing. The suicide bombers, they lace the IEDs and then they detonate it and then they kill themselves and kill other people. Now the use of the VBIEDs are the vehicle-borne IEDs.
Okay.
Those vehicle-borne IEDs could be driven and rammed into persons, you know, and then
is it driven remotely or driven someone?
No, somebody, just like the difference is just that, like you have the PB person-borne IEDs now. You know, they lace the vehicle with IEDs, and then maybe the suicide, the one you want to call the suicide bomber, the one want to take his life now, will drive the vehicle. And then when you have them using the UAVs now to carry out surveillance and gather intel against our military men, then there's danger. If you have all of these four put together, it means this explains the level of sophistication that the terrorists have gotten. UAVs, but the good thing is that for the UAVs, it's been easier for our military to shoot down those UAVs when they see them, because of course they are able to identify that those UAVs are not owned by the military, by them. Beyond that, the biggest fear now for me is that I hope that these terrorists will not advance into using combat UAVs.
Yeah, so if you mentioning all of these things, we know that, you know, some of these are technical, you know, the military will understand, and those who are in this insecurity, you know, will definitely understand. But with the high casualty rate among soldiers, does this point to, you know, gaps in planning, equipment, or intelligence? No. And if that's not the case, how do you think the military can actually address these vulnerabilities to prevent, you know, future attacks?
Yeah, sure. It's achievable, because now you like I said on News at 10, I did recommend that the military must ensure that they go ahead of the terrorists. Now, if the terrorists don't deploy some of these things, the intel may not reveal as much as what they will bring out for the terrorists, the terrorists will bring out for the military to see. Their equipment, their strength. Now we are talking about combat strength. Okay, before now, apparently the military is aware about the UAVs being deployed by the terrorists. Beyond that now, they know how to gun down these UAVs. for the VB IEDs now, you have to have equipment that will be able to shoot them down from a distance before they get close.
But you need to detect them before you shoot them down.
Of course, now that they've seen it, any vehicle at such times when they are doing clearance, when they are or counter attacks,
right,
vehicles coming on the opposite side now, I'm sure they will take them all out. They will take any of those vehicles out, but they have to have enough equipment that are capable of taking out those equipment at what's the word now? You know,
at a distance.
No, not just as a distance.
Then you may improvise if it's more technical.
I know it's a lot.
Now, like getting an equipment that will be precise in taking out that vehicle when it's coming, that will not miss it.
Right.
Okay.
There's
a term for it.
Yes, there's a word for it.
But we got the message.
We understand what you're saying.
They have to have all of this equipment. Now, clearance. What the military said, they were on clearance for 10 days. Between 16th and 25th of January, they were doing those clearance. Now, what I tried to call a senior military officer last night, but he didn't take my call. Air Force. I wanted to understand whether there was area bombardment first before the clearance.
Right. Now,
usually when you're carrying out clearance, there has to have been area bombardments. Now, the ground troops will now go for clearance after the area bombardment. In this instance, what the image maker for the military, these armies gave me some cause to begin to want to do more research on what actually transpired. Right. Was there an area bombing first, or was it that there had been an area bombing before, or was it that they just went there to, you know, they got intel that these persons were in those that area, and then they needed to invade. Now, while they were doing that, of course, they are aware of the past antecedents, what the Nigerian military suffered at the beginning of terrorism in Nigeria, where in the course of chasing after them, mines were planted. They knew you would come after them, and so they too were prepared. They planted mines. They were using mines then with the IEDs, the PBIEDs. That was what they were using, but they were not using the PBIEDs to attack the military in defense. But now they knew that in the course of this clearance, they were prepared, and so that's why we have this high number of casualties, that we have now. I'm sure now that the military has had. They've known what it is. They've known their strength, their capabilities, and capacities.
Perhaps re-strategizing.
No, of course, definitely.
Now, you mentioned something earlier on that I want you to perhaps look at again. You said at some point Boko Haram was quiet, and perhaps they were re-strategizing. And I was thinking, a thought came that perhaps the Lakurawa or Lukurawa, whichever name it is now, Lakurawa as it is, they are coming in. Remember that the military also mentioned about they beginning to come into the country. Do you think that also triggered this person's activities? Now, that is on the one hand. On the other hand, you talked about... I wish
you would permit me to take it one by one.
Okay, but let me just say the other one so that because of our time, we can make good use of it. The second question is the matter of sophisticated weapons that are being used now. How it seems that they are advancing, these terrorists are advancing in terms of weapons. Are we also a step ahead of them in terms of sophistication? Two questions.
Are we ahead of them? Are we ahead of them? If you're talking about us being, if you're saying us, now you're talking about the military now, yes. Whether the military...
the Nigerian security apparatus. Yeah.
Okay, whether they are ahead of them. Don't forget that ISWAP has a tie with ISIS and ISIL. And so, they are different from Boko Haram in terms of sponsorship and where they get their kind of equipment from and training. Okay, that's why they are able to overpower Boko Haram on Sambisa Forest. Now, it means that what we have seen means that the ties between ISWAP and ISIS is helping ISWAP to get a little bit advanced. Now, it has not been scientifically proven that this is exactly what it is, but common sense will tell us that for them to get to the level, for ISWAP to have gotten to this level, meant that there's an external hand that is either helping them with the equipment or helping them with funds to survive them, and then also helping them with strategies. All of this put together, this tripartite strength coming together in one, is what has taken the Nigerian military unaware. But whether the Nigerian military is on top of the game, yes, they are on top of the game because, of course, if you place 70 over 20, you have about, say 2022, then 70 of their men were taken out.
You have 48, I think.
Without the Nigerian military using the VBIEDs, it meant that the military were actually on top of the game. Of course, definitely, because it's a war thing, and you must have casualties on both sides when it comes to such situations. But I think the Nigerian military and the Nigerian government should do more, particularly from budgeting. Beyond budgeting, it's not just enough to set aside some amount of money or create budget for the year for equipment and for welfare, like Mr. President is so much interested. Welfare is very important, so that these men will be
energized. They
will be energized, and yes,
their confidence boosted, and all of that
will go up. But at the end of the day, these monies that are coming from budget, are we using them to buy modern equipment? Again, I see conspiracy from the West. The Nigerian government has cried out severally to say that equipment, they are not selling equipment to them. Again, we Nigerians are part of the problems, because you find some Nigerians writing petitions to this Western government and then to these factories to say do not sell equipment to the Nigerian government, that the Nigerian government will use those equipment against them.
There goes
Where is that coming from?
There goes my next question.
And that is, sorry, 1 second, sorry, 1 second. Before you chase me out of this place.
No, it's actually within the line of your thoughts. Yeah,
but let me conclude this. Now, you see, the challenge is it that some persons are using these people to weaken the strength of the Nigerian military by not allowing them to have or access why is it not possible? Why is it not possible? Is it not people that are sponsoring these terrorists and the bandits?
Okay, so you're also throwing up
so there's a conspiracy somewhere.
Yeah. Yes, a conspiracy. The Nigerian government has cried out over time. The military has cried out. We had our own problems, like we had in the era of Dasuki, where monies were budgeted and then those monies were diverted, and then the Nigerian military were given sticks to go face Boko Haram. And you remember the number of casualties we suffered in those days. But now, it's a different ball game. The Nigerian government is interested in getting this equipment, but they are not getting the cooperation. That is why the military now is looking at how to manufacture their own equipment in Nigeria now, and which of course will take us to a greater height. We have the expertise. We have people who are the local manufacturers that could be brought together and given better training, and then use them to manufacture the equipment you want.
Okay.
If we're also looking at manufacturing aircraft, then we can do it.
That's right. So now talking about external factors, let us try to see things beyond the scope of Nigeria. For instance, look at the crisis in Sudan. It's been age-long. Look at that of DR Congo, and so on and so forth. You see what Niger and some of the Sahelian states are doing to the West, especially the French, asking them to leave their country. And we see that there's this large scramble for Africa among the West and the East, where you see China trying to come in, and you also see Russia also trying to, have his own base. All because of our mineral resources.
Yes,
because they say he who controls Africa or the Middle East controls the world. And we see how much they are fighting over all of this. So do you not see that, for 16 years since we had the birth of Boko Haram by Mohammed Yusuf, is it what kind of external factors are we getting in this? And you said Nigerians also write petitions. Is there a way we can extricate ourselves from the grip of the scramblers for the continent of Africa?
I think you are looking at it from a large scale now, the foreign policy.
Yeah, because before we break it to the particular, we have to look at the
You are looking at the Nigerian foreign policy now. Where is our policy tilted towards? That's what you're saying now. Otherwise, the scramble for Africa has been there even before I was born.
That's right.
So I even read about it, the scramble for Africa by this Western country. That was what brought about slave trade and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you have most of the Western countries, taking over countries on the continent of Africa. They have not completely left us. Now, the Francophone countries are still suffering more than the Anglophone countries, from their colonial masters. That is what is bringing about what we're experiencing on the Sahel states now.
Yeah,
now, do you know, I saw that in the Anglophone countries, after independence, many of them are given their rights, to some extent back. But what is given to the Francophone countries is limited. The economy of those Francophone countries are controlled by France.
That's right.
Their CBN is controlled by France. If they need money, their own money, they get them in form of loan. So they are still under slavery. The policy of assimilation and the policy of association. Yeah. This has to the black man. It enables them move into France or move out. That policy of association and all of that. But they really were not seeing that they were being impoverished because everything about them was being controlled by the...
No, but they're seeing it now because they're asking...
No, I said before now. Yeah, I said before now. They were not seeing it. And the people who are seeing it are those in the military. Because most of these military men, like Jeremy Benwan once said in one of his books, he said, look, coups that take place in Africa are usually encouraged by the West. Because their officers, when they go for training abroad, the kind of treatment they give to them and the kind of names they call them, it sends some signals into their heads that when they come back, they begin to imagine some kind of things. But if you look at the Francophone countries now, for those of them who have been able to stand up against what is happening to them, against France, to say, no, we want to break away. Those countries, those things were done by the military, not the civilian, because the constitution, when you were to get independence, books that were sent to you were books about their countries, about their own constitution. You have not been able to fashion a constitution that is yours. That is what most of these people are also suffering, and then including the military. Now, sorry, last one.
Because of our time. And
yes, no, this one is very important because of what he said that people are not really looking at. ECOWAS is the regional body that is controlling Nigeria and other countries. That Nigeria is the head of ECOWAS. Now, do you know that ECOWAS is also limiting our strength in purchasing equipment? There's a rule in ECOWAS that, for instance, if Nigeria is to purchase equipment from any other country, maybe from the west or east or anywhere, they must first write to ECOWAS. And that letter will be published for a period of time. Excuse me. Now, if it's published and nobody challenges it, ECOWAS will issue you another document, certificate, exemption certificate. It is that exemption certificate now you will now present to the factory. All of this take a lot of time.
So can it be amended? That's on the one hand.
That's if Mr. President can push it in ECOWAS. So we are looking at the limits, the various areas where we are having limitations. We have a war. You are fighting a war now. You need immediate solution. And the immediate solution you need, look at the extent ISWAP has gotten. Now the Nigerian military need equipment to be able to counter what they have experienced in this last war.
That has been established, and the fact that there is a need for ECOWAS to look inward and address these issues, because almost every country is facing this challenge.
But why is ECOWAS not even coming to our aid?
Right. These are the critical
if it
questions.
Were other countries, Nigeria would have sent soldiers.
Right. Now,
we are fighting a war.
Let's quickly look at, because of our time, let's quickly look at the matter of funding, another area that government says it is addressing. Because recently, the government came out to say that about 100 financiers of terrorists have been tried in terms of their involvement in financing terrorism in the country. How is that also, from your perspective, addressing this issue, or how can we also build on that? I know that you are not happy as it is, but we need to quickly address this one before we let you go.
There are things I don't like saying on television.
I know.
The area of funding, we just talk about the level, we just examined the level at which ISWAP has gotten, in terms of strategy and equipment. We just analyze the equipment they are using now. Right. What does that tell you? It means that some people are really heavily funding them, both with equipment and cash. Now, the Nigerian government has told us, I saw that report, but how much has that impacted? How much has that?
Are there still loopholes that we need to block?
If there are no loopholes, we just examined here on this table.
No, I'm talking about in the financing chain, why we are still seeing this heavy. What more can we do?
There is going on. I don't know how much the government, the 100 persons or 1,000 persons or 1 million persons, how much has that I want to see the impact. Tell me about the impact. Has the strength? We are just seeing that ISWAP has grown more in equipment.
Right.
The usage of equipment. So and then they have trained people who will do all of this. So it meant that the funding is on. And so what has those of them who have been tried, let's even take it to the limit, jailed. How has that reduced the situation? We've seen situations in this country where people in prison plan robbery outside. From within
the prison.
They are inside the confines of a prison. But inside there, they plan robbery outside with people, control them and directed them on what to achieve. It's painful to me.
I know it's painful to everyone, unfortunately, but time is not our friend. We need to wrap up this conversation now. There's so much to be said, but we can only wish the government the best at achieving the peace and stability in the country as it is.
And then finally, I want to appeal to the military to take care of the families
of the fallen heroes.
Very well, so that those serving will be encouraged.
Right, absolutely. Thank you again, Darlington Omoro. All right, we will quickly go on a break.